I, 29 male, was invited to a couple's bedroom, and I might have caused a breakup. I understand the title sounds strange. Let me explain the situation. About 2.5 months ago, an acquaintance of mine, 28 male, we're not best friends, but we know each other long enough to consider ourselves friends, came to speak with me, 29 male, privately when we were hanging out with some mutual friends. We started to chat, and eventually told me that he and his girlfriend, 26 female, they've been together for 5 years, were trying to spice things up in the bedroom. I initially thought that was very open-minded of them. Anyhow, eventually told me that they were discussing the possibility of having a threesome, and my name came up as both of them thought I was an attractive man. I'll be honest, that did surprise me a little, as I've never been invited for this kind of thing. Then he asked me if I was interested. To be completely honest, I wasn't really sure. I told him that I was flattered, but I needed some time to think. He agreed and told me to take as much time as I'd need. I considered this for the next few days, and I couldn't shake the feeling of awkwardness. And when he asked me again a few days later, I told him that I was feeling a bit awkward about that. He told me he understood, but also that if it made me more comfortable, we could just see how things went. That we could try, and if at any given time I decided I wanted to back off, we could stop everything immediately. After we spoke, I felt like it could be worth a try. We scheduled everything and organized it. I'm a straight male and wanted him to understand that before we got any further. But apparently he had some sort of deal with her, that afterwards they would invite a woman. Eventually we decided on a date and we had an interesting experience. It was very awkward at first, but that disappeared rather quickly. That was an interesting experience, and for me that was that. However, for the next 2 months I didn't really see him again. He was still in our group chat, but didn't come to our hangouts anymore. This last Friday though, he was at a mutual friend's house. I greeted him, but he seemed really cold towards me, and that mood lingered through the evening. That really bothered me, as I really don't like people being rude or cold toward me without me knowing the reason. I sent him a text the next morning and asked if I've done something to insult him. Well, he answered pretty aggressively. Apparently, he and his girlfriend split up, and he was blaming me for it. We exchanged messages for about an hour, in which he used every word of the book to insult me, claiming I shouldn't have meddled in his relationship. Eventually, he ended up blocking me. Now, I'm not really sure of what I should do. I feel like he's hurt and projecting it on me, but I have a really bitter feeling. I really don't know what to do now. This dude has been in my life for almost 10 years, and I have no idea how I should deal with the situation. Anyone has any advice they can share? Now for the top advice. I think him and his girl had issues already before this event. I think he's just using it as an excuse for why they broke up. Maybe he doesn't want to blame himself or his girl because that's too hard, so he'll blame you. It's not your fault. Just give him time, I think. Yeah, when people want to spice things up, it could be because they found both out they're kinky, or because their relationship is lacking and they don't realize it / don't know how to cope. It appears that you met the second case. This is the first time I've ever heard of something like this ruining a relationship. Shocking outcome. You didn't cause anything. He is just butthurt. I wouldn't bother with it. If he's not your friend anymore, he's not your friend, and that's his fault. He and his girlfriend invited you to a group event and you accepted. If she broke up with him after that, that's on her, not on you. It wasn't like you approached them about this. He approached you multiple times. If he didn't want someone else in their private life, he shouldn't have insisted you join them. He's throwing blame to avoid owning up to their idea wrecking their relationship. He's probably still hurting over the breakup, and it's easy for someone who's hurting to blame everyone but themselves to avoid having to admit they messed up. If he's a decent person, he might snap out of this and apologize to you once he makes peace with what happened and accepts that this isn't your fault. If he's not, he'll just always be the scapegoat for the relationship failing in his mind, and this is the end of your friendship. If that's the case, good riddance. This wasn't your fault, and you don't need a friend who's going to blame you for it to save their own ego. Lol. Your buddy decides to engage in it, knowing full well that wasn't going to fundamentally alter the nature of his relationship with his girlfriend. Then, like a little bee, he runs off and blames you for it when it doesn't turn out how he hoped. Like the old saying goes, you pay your money and take your chances. I suspect he never got his FMF event he was promised, which is likely the real reason he is mad. Next story. My dad was acting like a creep to my girlfriend and my mom keeps defending him. I, 21 male, never experienced something like this before, so I'm feeling really crushed. My dad was always like my hero, somebody to look up to. My girlfriend I've been with over a year only seen my parents a couple of times. We moved in together during COVID and it's serious. So I really wanted her to get along with my family, like I get along with hers. Last time we went over was last week on Saturday. Then Sunday morning after breakfast, she tells me she got something to show me and says what was happening after I drove my mom to the store to pick up more stuff. She took out a video of my dad with her, and he's acting really weird. But I could tell my girl was nervous the way she was talking. He was telling her she's really beautiful and saying all this super gross stuff he would do if he wasn't married. It made me really mad, but my girlfriend in the video sounded really nervous, and she told him, well, they won't do any of that even if he wasn't married. Then sometimes the camera would move away from him like she's trying to get away, and he would move closer anyways. It goes on like 5 minutes, him asking if he could have a kiss and all this other stuff. It just made my stomach twist up, and I'm really mad. My girlfriend told me she was sorry, and I'm like, WTF? I told her I'm sorry, and that we are not going back again, I promise. I told my mom about it, because I don't know if I could talk to my dad without wanting to beat the crap out of him, and I'm shocked by how she's being. She's seen it, but she says my dad says he doesn't remember, and he was obviously drunk. But that's not true. It wouldn't make a difference even if he was. We know he only had max like 3 beers, which is nothing to him. He's saying he's sorry for making her uncomfortable. He didn't know what he was doing. Now both dad and my mom say he didn't do anything wrong, and that we're making a big deal by saying me and my girlfriend aren't going to see them anymore. All week she'd been calling me to say my dad is hurt by this, and they didn't think I'd be so willing to drop them over a misunderstanding. I don't know what to do anymore because I need to support my girl, but it's hurting me that they don't see how messed up what my dad did this. Like, how do I handle the situation with them? Look at it this way. Even if you and this girl break up, what about the next one? You'll be on creep patrol forever. Your mom is in denial. I'd be willing to bet this isn't new or shocking for her. He has likely done this and worse. Mama has her own reasons, but that doesn't excuse her ignoring it for you and your girlfriend. I personally would go very low contact. Your dad is sketchy AF, and your mom becomes untrustworthy when she must deal with his behavior. Opie's in the same position as my husband. He warned me, but even he didn't remember how bad his dad could be, and he looked mortified. Haven't seen his parents since. His mom is 1000% an enabler too. So sad. The dude is gross. At least Opie and my husband know it's unacceptable. Yep, the women enable as a coping mechanism. A terrible coping mechanism. Can I ask what prompted her to record? Has he been inappropriate with her before? I honestly don't know how you're supposed to move past the fact that your dad was trying to hit on your girlfriend, and that your mom defended his actions. So that she'd have proof in case I didn't believe her. She's never told me something like this happened before. So maybe just to be sure. I don't know how I'm supposed to either. It makes me sick, and I don't want to ever put my girlfriend through that again. So she started recording partway through their interaction. Even if at some point you break up with your girlfriend, your dad was willing to hurt and betray you in the worst way possible. This is a line that no parent should cross. Your kids' significant others are off limits. I think anyone is off limits when you're married too. That's why I feel really crushed by it. First, feel bad for my girlfriend that she was even in that mess, and then everything else. I thought at least my mom would be mad and she'd be on my side. Next story is titled, Drunk Fiancé 32 Female Slept with Someone While Drunk. So my 31 male fiancé 32 female went out with her colleagues to have a drink. Now bear in mind, this was the first time in over a year and a half that she had gone out for drinks. I had COVID 6 months ago and she has been extra careful ever since about going out, even though I have been pushing her to do it. Recently they had been working on a deal and it was successful, and they went out on Sunday to celebrate it. I was just hanging out at home. She sent me a few texts here and there, and her last text was at 10:30 where she said she would be leaving in half an hour and that she was very tipsy. I asked her to be careful, then she went radio silent, and when she did come back by 1 a.m., I started to worry a bit. I called her number, no response. I called her colleague's number, but her husband picked up and said that she had come home at 12:30 and was very drunk and sleeping and he had no idea about my fiancé. I was thinking about what to do when I suddenly get a call from her. It's 3 a.m. She is crying, saying she doesn't know where she is and that she wants me to come pick her up. I calmed her down enough to send me her location on WhatsApp. It took me 25 minutes to reach there, and when I saw her, I was astonished. I'd never seen her this drunk. When she saw me, she clung to me and kept saying sorry over and over. I drove her home and put her to bed, as I knew there's no point in talking to her in this state. One very idiotic thing I did was that when I brought her home, I changed her clothes and put what she wore the night out in the washing machine. Anyways, when she woke up, I gave her some coffee and asked what happened, and it took her some time to remember. But again, she started panicking and kept saying that she has these flashes in her mind of hooking up with someone and asking for protection. So I asked her to call her colleagues, and she confirmed that there was a guy in the lounge who was very interested in my fiancé, and at some point of time they were talking. Her colleague says when she left, my fiancé was still talking to this guy, but she confirms that my fiancé had trouble standing up at this point. My fiancé has absolutely no memory of even meeting this guy, let alone talking to him. The colleague didn't know the guy. So I told my fiancé it seems like she was taken advantage of, but she is very adamant that she cheated and has been crying nonstop now as she thinks I'm going to break up with her. I've been trying to talk to her and reassure her, but she isn't ready to listen. I think since she hadn't had a drink for the past 16 months, her alcohol tolerance dropped, so she didn't recognize her own limits. Right now, she slept after clinging to me for 2 hours and crying and blaming herself. It's honestly breaking my heart. Please tell me how to convince her, Reddit. What do I say to her? Her colleagues left her alone at the bar with a strange man when she was too drunk to even stand up. She says that she was drunk too and her Uber had showed up. She claims she asked my fiancé if she was okay and fiancé replied yes. Honestly, I am not even thinking about that right now. Well, if your fiancé says she has no memory whatsoever of meeting this guy, and only flashes of supposedly sleeping with him, I take her to get drug tested. At least rule it out. She should also take Plan B as soon as possible if she's not sure a rubber was used. Add an STI screen in a couple weeks. Sorry this happened to you both, Opie. There's no easy way forward here. She seems to be having a trauma response to a violation. Talk to her about being tested. Drugs or alcohol, either way, she was clearly in no state to consent. She's not willing to come out of even her room. I suggested going to a hospital, but she said, why don't you just dump me and send me to my mom's house? I don't want to press the issue here. I'm hoping in a day or two she will get a little better and decide what to do. You're doing the right thing. Give her some space. She may find it easier to talk to someone else. A friend, sister, someone she doesn't feel like she betrayed. She's always clinging to me, and insisting that I keep the door of toilet open while using it. She hasn't told even her BFF yet, and she tells her everything. If I try to give her space, she might feel like I am abandoning her, right? Even now, she has one leg on me while sleeping. Now for the last story. I, 27 male, got injured while saving a girl from assault, and my girlfriend, 27 female, stopped talking to me. My girlfriend and I have been dating for almost 3 years. We moved in together recently and our relationship is great. She's an extremely loving and caring person. I was coming home from a gig late at night a few days ago when I heard sobbing behind a dumpster in an alley. I went to investigate, and a man was trying to force himself on a woman. He saw me and tried to take a swing at me. We got into a fight and it got pretty brutal. I managed to beat him and force him down until the cops arrived. My face got blooded badly. I broke a finger and cracked a rib. I was taken to the hospital after that and my girlfriend rushed there. She was extremely worried and started crying when she saw my face. I reassured her that I was okay, and she went home after looking after me for a few hours. She came to visit me after her job the next day, but she was very distant. She took care of me but didn't try to talk to me and only responded with one-word answers to my attempts to start a conversation. She's even avoiding looking at my face. She's been the same way even after I was discharged after 2 days and came home. She keeps avoiding conversations with me. What is wrong? She's never behaved like this before. What should I do? Did I do something wrong? Only one person knows what's wrong. That would be your girlfriend. You should save the self-doubt or anything else and simply ask her. There was a similar thread months back, where the girlfriend shut down because she was worried about her boyfriend, and seeing him so close to his own mortality scared her in ways she couldn't handle. So she disconnected. Wish I could find it. First off, you absolutely did the right thing, and I'm sorry it did not go well for you. Hope you're healing up okay. Second, it might just be hard for her to see you that way. I know when a family member of mine had a major life-saving emergency surgery, I avoided them like the plague because even looking at them made me want to cry. They took it really personally, but I was young and I didn't know how to express my stress and pain seeing them that way. Your girlfriend might be going through something similar, but it's hard to say. She may also feel like you should have stayed out of it, because it could have gone worse. I know I've had conflicting feelings over my boyfriend trying to defend women before, but mostly because I don't want him to get hurt, not because I don't think it's the right thing. There's a chance she might not believe that someone would be willing to take that sort of injury to help a woman he doesn't have some sort of relationship with. Or she could be frightened that you're capable of that level of violence at all. Or she could be upset because seeing you in the hospital scared her, but now she's afraid that you'll do something brave again and get yourself killed. There's no way to know what's happening in her head without speaking to her about it. This. Or she could be worried about herself being in the other woman's situation and wondering if a guy, like her boyfriend, would protect her as well. Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my friend take care of her baby after she kicked her boyfriend out? I, 19 female, recently got a call from my friend Jess, 23 female, begging me to run to the shop for some baby formula and other food essentials because she was so tired. I agreed. I got her some stuff and dropped it off, and offered to nurse the baby so she could have a shower and cook some pasta. She was super happy and took up my offer. This was at 4:15 and her boyfriend usually gets back from work at 5:30. Jess has her shower and food, and when it hits 5 p.m., I ask if she's going to be okay for half an hour until her boyfriend gets home. That's when she tells me she kicked him out because he went to visit his mother whilst he had a baby and he hadn't asked her first. I should be clear that I don't have kids and never intend to, and so I cannot pretend to know what goes through a new parent's head. But I found that whole thing so ridiculous. I said that's so stupid of her because he clearly loves her and the baby, and he didn't do it to be a prick. Jess got mad and said I don't get it. We sat in silence for a few moments before she asked me if I could help her the next day with the baby. I said no. She got really upset and asked why. I told her she needs to beg her boyfriend to come back, since the baby is both their responsibility. And whilst I'll help out every now and then, I'm not going to become a substitute parent when the baby clearly has two loving ones. She told me to leave, but then texted me a few times later that day, asking what days I was free the next week so she could get work done. I told her I love her, but she needs to get her act together and sort it out with her boyfriend. She then went to the group chat and began asking our other friends for help, and accidentally mentioned what I had said to her. And now everyone thinks I'm a huge a-hole, and I can't help but wonder if I am. I want to be clear. Jess's only qualms are that he went to visit his parents when he had a baby, and that he didn't ask her for permission first because she was dead asleep. She admitted he's a great father who works hard to provide for the family. He's not a disinterested bum or anything. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I'm with you here. She's majorly overreacted to something reasonable her boyfriend did, and then trying to co-opt her friends into childcare. Not the a-hole. Maybe the friends in the group chat can volunteer their time to help Jess, since they seem to think Opie's an a-hole for reasonably setting boundaries. Agreed. I wouldn't even fight whatever was said. Just reply that I'm so happy Jess has so many friends willing to step up, and see how that rolls. Opie, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. She sounds like a control freak, and the father has the same rights as a parent as the mother. She chose to be an a-hole. Let her suffer the consequences of her actions until she comes to her senses. To be fair, if my husband just took my newborn baby out of the house without talking to me first, I would have been fuming. I would have woken up and completely freaked out. He should have waited until she was awake. Also, what if she's breastfeeding? On the other hand, I agree that ending the relationship is a bit extreme. Postpartum, I was all over the place, so I completely understand why she overreacted. As long as he gets why she was upset, there is no reason not to repair the relationship. I think Opie did right trying to steer her friend towards reconciliation. Opie is also not obliged to help. Edit. Adding this note. In a comment, Opie states that the mom knew her boyfriend was out with the baby. He just swung by his parents before coming back and texted her to let her know the change in plans. It sounds like he did everything right. Not the a-hole. Her reaction was a bit unhinged, which isn't strange considering recently having a baby. Either way, I think you handled the situation very well. Absolutely, which is why I was trying to put some sense into her. If she really wants to end a relationship with her boyfriend, fine, but it just felt off to hear from her, given how head over heels she's been for him these past few months, and how she's been talking about proposing. I don't want to be that person, but I assumed it was hormones and tired talking rather than her, you know. As someone who just had a baby a few weeks ago, I 100% get what you are saying. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing a person a plate after they showed up and invited? Everyone is mid-late 20s. My boyfriend and I have been hosting Monday night dinner parties at our apartment for about a year. It's not every week, but most. I have food allergies and it's hard to go out, so this has been a good alternative. About 2 months ago, an old high school friend Layla moved to my city with her fiancé Lucas, and I started inviting them to our dinners. Lucas is insufferable. He will never try food first before adding additional seasoning, which is a pet peeve of mine, but I could get over it if he ate it, but it ends up directly in the trash. He'll add a bunch of salt to an already salted dish, take one bite and then say, "Ew, it's too salty." Or dump a ton of red pepper on and then complain that it's too spicy. And on and on. It's like he deliberately ruins his plate so he can complain about it. It's probably petty, but it really got under my skin. And it bugs my boyfriend too, to toss food that would have been perfectly good without his tampering. I put up with this for 5 dinners, and then stopped inviting them. I've still texted and met with Layla for coffee, but I haven't extended another dinner invite. They showed up this Monday without an invite, right as we were starting dinner. Lucas sat down and started filling a plate before my boyfriend stopped him and told him he wasn't welcome to waste more of our food. It turned into an argument, where Lucas insisted he shouldn't be forced to eat things he doesn't like. And I got angry and told him how could he be forced when he wasn't even invited. Voices got raised, and eventually Layla and Lucas left, but the mood was ruined for the night. Everyone who was present agreed with me, but I guess Layla either told our old friend group or posted about it because I've gotten an odd number of texts from people I haven't talked to in years, calling me an a-hole for kicking them out over my crappy cooking. It's not, so maybe I am. Not the a-hole. While you don't owe it to them, I think it might have gone over better to have talked to Layla while you were having coffee, to let her know that his behavior is insulting and wasteful, and that you wouldn't be inviting him to any more dinners if he continued. Unless you explicitly told them, you can't assume they knew it was bothering you, as reasonable and understandable as your position is. I'm sorry to hear that this happened, but I hope you have lovely dinner nights moving forward. How nice of you and your boyfriend to host this regularly. It's true she could have told her friend, but who shows up to someone's house for dinner uninvited? The rudeness is shocking. Not justifying the friend, but after 5 dinners, it was probably assumed. That said, some people are just that blissfully aloof, or willfully ignorant. Not the a-hole. Make sure you respond to everyone telling them that 1. Lucas and Layla showed up unannounced and uninvited to your home for your dinner party. 2. Lucas helped himself to your dinner without asking or being invited to it. And you were not planning on 2 extra guests. Then Lucas got mad at your boyfriend when he was stopped because he was not welcome to it. 3. Lucas has behaved very rudely to first, and only 5 times he's been properly invited to your dinner parties, and has not been invited back since because of his inappropriate behavior and wasteful conduct. Therefore, you will not tolerate anyone's disrespect and offensive comments, especially when they do not have all the facts to properly understand the situation to support a side. You will not be discussing it any further with anyone else, other than Layla and Lucas, the only other 2 involved, as it's no one else's business. Not the a-hole, but you should have told Layla, or she's welcome but not Lucas. Lucas was never invited. He was a +1. Not the a-hole. The old friend group is only saying you are, because they were lied to. That was my thought as well. I wonder how the friend or her boyfriend spun it to where they were totally mistreated, and hope he kicked them out unprovoked. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my best friend he is lonely because his hygiene is disgusting? My 24 female best friend, 26 male of 12 years, is a great person with many desirable traits. He is educated and has a good career, and I'm really proud of him for his accomplishments. Since we were kids, I've always noticed he had really bad hygiene habits, but chalked it up to him being a teenage boy. Now that we're older, I've seen that his hygiene has not improved with age. He goes to the gym at least 3 times per week, but never showers more than once per week, never brushes his teeth, and only does laundry when the clothes are completely stiff. I've dropped little hints like if we stay the night somewhere together, I'll ask if he packed shower supplies, and in the mornings I'll offer to leave my toothpaste out if he wants to use it. I found myself no longer inviting him places because it's embarrassing when he shows up greasy, smelly, and with an inch thick of plaque on his teeth. Last month, he told me he had a crush on one of my newer friends and asked if she was single. I told him that she was, but only recently single and isn't looking for anything right now. He wouldn't take no for an answer though, and decided to contact her himself to ask her out. When she declined, she lied and said she was seeing someone. Now he knew that one of us was lying to him, and when he confronted me, I told him that everyone I know thinks he is disgusting because of his hygiene. They don't want to be near him, much less date him. He denied having bad hygiene and said he does shower and brush his teeth. He left and hasn't talked to me in over a month, insisting I need to apologize and set the record straight to everyone we know. I think I'm doing him a favor in the long run, and he should appreciate my honesty because he's the one who confronted me about why I lied to him about my friend. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're trying to help him and you're only telling him the truth. He needs to get a reality check and improve his hygiene. Otherwise, he can't expect people to be willingly around him, even less to want to get intimate with him. Yep, a dude with bad hygiene can be hard to share space with, much less get intimate with. Guaranteed that even if he managed to find a girl willing to try to look past it, she still would be bothered by his hygiene once in bed, and eventually leave him over it. I once ran a half marathon and got passed by a guy who absolutely reeked of ball sweat, from at least 4 feet away. I wanted to vomit, it was so bad. Like he hadn't washed his crotch or clothes in weeks. Fit, attractive guy, but his hygiene was horrific. If it was just body odor, I could understand because that can really cling to your athletic clothes, especially in the heat, but this was straight up nuclear man genitals. Not the a-hole. I might write a gentle note to him, apologizing for hurting his feelings, but clearly telling him that while yes, he does shower and brush his teeth, he does them so much less frequently than he should. Then tell him that other people shower daily, and always after a workout, and brush their teeth twice a day. That he is welcome to ask his physician, as a neutral third party, his/her thoughts on it. Then I would leave it. Your friend is in denial that something's wrong, and is grasping at straws. I do shower, even though it only seems to happen in Olympic years. I don't think apologizing for what you said rather than for hurting his feelings, and pretending like you were wrong for pointing out the truth, is the way to go. Either way, it's hard to see how this friendship continues, even just as friends. Hanging out with someone greasy, smelly, and with an inch thick of plaque on his teeth doesn't seem ideal. Also wash their clothes after one wear for shirts and underwear. Not the a-hole. However, you say he's been like this since he was a teenager. So it's likely no one at his home talked about how he should brush his teeth every day and shower more than once a week and when to do laundry. Hey, it's considered the norm to shower daily. Wash most clothes after 1 to 2 wear and brush your teeth twice a day. It appears you don't do that, so your dating pool may be limited to those who feel the same way. If he insists that brushes his teeth daily, but you still think he doesn't due to bad breath/tooth condition, suggest a dentist to find the root of the problem. The show Ted Lasso had a good story arc about bad breath that was actually caused by antihistamines and some solutions. If you can see plaque on the teeth, then they are not brushing daily. I used to work in dentist office, and I have a person, usually child, hold mirror while I peeled back plaque by layers. You can get fuzzy feeling teeth in a day with high sugar diet, but not layers of plaque that you see visually. Reminder, soft brush aimed at where tooth and gum meet for every tooth. Plus floss. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my neighbor to get lost after she demanded I clean her house? I am a Latino woman married to an American man. We live in a small community in Florida where most people are nice and kind to me. For context, I love cleaning. I like trying new products just for fun. And a couple of times I've offered to clean other people's houses free of charge just to help them. Among them, a widow who recently lost her husband of 50 years, a neighbor who had a baby and has a 3-year-old daughter, and another neighbor who had a car accident. I go to their houses and I clean for them once or twice a week. Then a few days ago, as I was sitting on my couch, I heard someone knocking on my door. It was odd because we have a doorbell. I opened the door and this lady around 40 years old, whom I've seen just a couple of times, said, "It took you a while to open the door." I looked at her like I didn't understand what she just said, and I only mumbled, "Huh?" She then asked me in the most entitled tone, "I want to know when you are going to clean my house for free." At this point, I was trying not to laugh, and I just asked her, "Why would I do that?" She then proceeded to mention all the houses in the neighborhood I've cleaned, and she wanted to know why I haven't been to her house yet. She then yelled at me. Yes, yelled loud enough to make my next door neighbor to come outside to see what was going on. She was yelling at me because I wasn't replying to her. I was still trying to process how on earth this woman thought she had a right to come to my house and demand that I clean her house for free. I just said, I'm never going to clean your house. I am not the neighbor's maid. I've only helped a few people. She then demanded that I help her, and at this point I had enough. So I just said F off, and I closed the door. Later that day, when my husband got home, she ran to him and told him I am a rude person and how I yelled at her. When I explained him what happened, he told me I shouldn't have talked to her like that and next time I should be nicer. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your husband really is though. Is this an isolated incident or does he belittle you a lot? Yeah, he can F off too and go clean that lady's house himself. I am someone who tries to see all sides before serving judgment. But my first reaction was F the neighbor. And especially F the husband, for not immediately sticking up for his wife over a stranger. Shaking my head. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Maybe you should tell your husband to F off too. And while you're at it, stop cleaning houses for free. You are not the help. If you keep doing that, that's all they will view you as. Meh. She stated that she loves cleaning and loves trying new products. She should be able to engage in her hobby, help people at the same time, and receive large amount of respect. It's the neighbor who needs to change, not OP. Yeah, she's making friends with 3 neighbors who are probably extremely grateful. They might have even offered to pay. She's a great neighbor and will probably get help in return someday if she asks. First story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my friend's boyfriend she went off birth control? I, 22 female, am in a group chat with 2 of my friends, who I'll call Lily, 20 female, and Hannah, 21 female. Lily has been dating a guy for a few months now and really likes him, and I'm happy for her. We finally all have boyfriends and we're planning to have a triple date sometime. But she seems really serious and had already talked about moving in with him and marrying him. Last night, Lily put in the group chat that she thought she was infertile. I thought this was weird, so I asked why. She told me she had been off birth control and hasn't gotten pregnant yet. I will admit I had a bit of judgment for her trying to start a family after dating the guy for such a short time, but I asked how long the both of them had been trying, as I thought it might just need time. She dropped the fact on me that her boyfriend did not know she was off birth control, and that they had slept together 4 times with him not knowing she was off birth control. After she said this, she again started to talk about how much she loved him, and saw a future with him, but said she got off of the birth control due to side effects. I love Lily, but I felt as if I couldn't let this guy keep doing this without knowing. So I told him. Hannah supported my decision, but also felt I should have waited as we know that Lily lies a lot and could lie to either us or him. Now Lily is mad at me. Her boyfriend is mad at me. She said I lied and he believed her. And I feel as if I might be the a-hole because it isn't my relationship and I should have stayed out of it, knowing that she lies about a lot of things and could have been lying to me and Hannah. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. While it's technically not your place to reveal that kind of thing, it's a good Samaritan act to warn someone when they're being deceived. He doesn't need to know every intimate detail of her life, but when he's being misled into thinking she's on birth control when she isn't, that impacts his life, her life, and potentially any children's lives. If it's no big deal, then she can warn him and let him know. But it's clear she doesn't respect him enough to want to get pregnant because she did seek out his cooperation. To add on to this, imagine Lily was fertile and did get pregnant. Then her boyfriend is stuck with a kid or paying child support for the next 18 years. Not the a-hole. Going off your only birth control and not informing your partner is extremely horrible. If her boyfriend chooses to believe her over you and not question the matter further, well, that's his choice, and predictable consequences may follow. Edited to add. Also, maybe a step back from Lily, who has a track record of lying. Not much good comes out of maintaining friendships with those people, and she clearly has no problem throwing you under the bus and lying to her boyfriend. Could you send him screenshots of the convo where she admits to going off birth control? Birth control is something you don't lie about, whether it's about being on it or being off. It's a huge breach of trust, and definitely something I would not be comfortable hiding from someone's significant other. Not the a-hole. What Lily is doing is heinous. Imagine if the tables were switched and he was the one poking holes in the protection. It's called reproductive coercion. You tried to warn him at least, so now it is on him to step up the precautions. Lily is not someone I would want as a friend, so the trash took itself out. It's assault. Not an a-hole. Adobe is morally obligated to let the boyfriend know. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for revealing a child's existence that my sister tried to hide? Little background. My half-sister, let's call her Ellie, and I have different fathers. My mother and her father separated when she was 2 years old, but he always made a great effort to be in her life and support her. My father was around for 10 years, but after he left my mother, he never wanted contact. He paid no child support, and I desperately wished that my father would love me. Now, my sister, 27, and me, 21, usually talk to each other over phone every day. At the beginning of last year, she met a guy and they fell in love. A few months after, it came out that his ex-girlfriend is pregnant by him and that she soon will birth his child. My sister was devastated. We often talked about how she could leave him if that's too much for her, or that she could accept the child and maybe it would turn out good. She decided to stay with him. But after the baby was born, she told me that he didn't want to pay child support and that he tried to pressure the mother of his child not to try getting money from him. Also, she doesn't want him to see the child and wants him to move with her very far away from this child. I was shocked with how she behaved. I mean, I didn't expect much from him, but she saw firsthand how cruel it can be for someone to feel like they're not wanted by their father. I told her that I don't find it okay the way they handled this, and she just cut me off. We had 4 months no contact, and she felt like I owe her an apology for getting into her business, which I refused. She never told me that she didn't tell our family, except our mom, anything about this child, but I slowly realized it. Yesterday, my grandparents called me and told me that Ellie acted weird, that she doesn't call anymore, and if they talk, she behaves weird. They asked her directly what was going on, but she didn't answer them. They were super weird, and I tried to escape the situation by telling them that Ellie is fine. They didn't believe me and asked me why I'd lie. I didn't feel comfortable, but then I told them that we don't speak to each other, how disappointed I am, and how they treat this child. My grandparents were super angry that they got lied to over months from her, and how they both treat this child. They stopped their financial support for her and are pretty furious. My sister called me and said that I destroyed her life because now she looks bad in front of our family. I'm really unsure if I was the a-hole in this situation. Not an a-hole. She looks bad because she supported the a-hole. Maybe it wasn't your business, but oh well, I'd have done the same thing. It's only fair to be honest. Also, what does she think? That if they have a child and for some reason split up, he won't do the same to her? Hijacking top comment. Maybe reading a little too much between the lines. But maybe Ellie's not okay? Her boyfriend seems like the real a-hole for sure, but maybe he's also an abuser and controlling Ellie? She never even asked you to lie to them. Not an a-hole. My sister called me and said that I destroyed her life because now she looks bad in front of our family. That's just the consequences of her actions. Not an a-hole. She doesn't look bad. She's a toxic hypocrite. She wants to pretend the child doesn't exist. Both she and the father of the child don't want to provide support to a newborn. She's a 27-year-old adult. If she thinks a child that can't even walk doesn't deserve support, why should she get financial support from your grandparents? She ruined her life herself. Actions have consequences, even outside of the law. She knew how the family would react. Not an a-hole. Your sister is 27 and receives financial support from her grandparents? Your sister is not the greatest. Her wonderful boyfriend has given her a preview as to how it will be if they split as parents. So I guess your sister is not that smart either. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling someone not to have a baby in their late 40s even though I did? I had unknown fertility issues. So after a few years, my husband and I stopped trying but decided not to use any kind of birth control. I ended up having my first spontaneous pregnancy at 45 years old and had my first and only child at 46. The doctor told me I had polycystic ovarian syndrome and said that it was common for women like me to have the problem almost fix itself closer to menopause, which is probably how it happened. We kept our child out of emotion. Yes, we were financially fine to do it and everything, but it was all about emotion. My cousin who got married at 40 is now looking into having kids and is starting to pursue treatment. She asked me what it was like and all of these questions, so I honestly told her that while I love my child more than anything and I wouldn't choose for her to not exist, I wouldn't have chosen to do this or forced it to happen. Why? It was not fun. I love my child and finally having the family I always wanted. But 46 is far, far too late to have a baby. And I wish someone had been honest with me when it was my time. I had so much extra testing and had to take so many precautions. My husband and I are now 58 years old, dealing with middle school registration and what to do with schooling options. I had to fill out kindergarten paperwork on the same day that we got our AARP cards. I have to obsessively dye my hair and keep up on makeup and fashion trends, so my child's peers and other parents won't stare at us the way that people stared at older parents when I was a child. And I know that logically they weren't as old as we are. I have to constantly do research to make sure I'm prepared for this generation's challenges, and I'm not making my child look behind or outdated. My ordinarily healthy husband had a heart attack 2 years ago, and with that, family history and the world today, we have to be genuinely afraid that we will die before our child is 18. I have to have very firm plans on who exactly could immediately take our child in if needed. We can't have maybe like younger parents. We have had to prepare my middle schooler for these possibilities in as much of a child-friendly way as possible, and a written list of who to call, in what order, and a sample script of what to say. I have nobody that can help me with any of this because everyone I actually know had their kids in a completely different time. It's so many extra concerns and worries that how much extra money you have doesn't really make up for it as much as you would think. Once again, I love my child more than life itself, but it is not as easy as you can do it anytime. It's just like becoming a parent at any other time. Now she's mad at me for not being supportive and people think I regret my child. I'm not. I love her. I'm just saying that there's a difference and that there are things to consider besides the emotion, especially when it's a very deliberate choice versus nature. Am I the a-hole for telling her this? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. She asked, you answered. And may I just say, as I sit here at age 44, 20 weeks pregnant with my second child, you have scared the ever-loving daylights out of me. It's a lot different when it's common in your family and/or you have other children. I would be much less scared if my daughter had an older sibling and/or cousins of her own. Not the a-hole. You answered the wrong question. You took it at face value and told her the truth. The real question was, there is no question. Tell me sweet, sweet lies that validate my decisions. A lot of people told us the lies, but mostly it was just oversimplified because they wouldn't and couldn't know what the reality would be. We already had emotions of, it's happening right now, and pregnancy hormones, so it would have changed a lot less than someone who was still planning it out. But there is never a perfect time to have a child. You can have a baby in your early 20s, when you are starting out with massive amounts of college debt and impossible job markets. You can have a baby in your 30s, when your career demands all of your time and attention. You can have a baby in your 40s, when your energy and abilities aren't what they used to be. Wanting to dye your hair and research trends shouldn't be something that you use to discourage someone from having a family. And unfortunately, health can fail you at any time. Your cousin asked you and you gave her an honest answer, so not an a-hole. But I don't believe there is ever a perfect time to start a family. Life is inconvenient. There are a lot of deeper issues that I touched on. I also left out due to the word count that my husband and I won't be able to retire because we will be in our 60s by the time she graduates high school, and we do need to help her through college. But I thought that would be implied due to our ages a little bit. College isn't really a requirement, but since she's an only child who will be orphaned very young, we feel we owe it to her to give her the best start possible. There's also major generational gaps in that. Plus, being an only child means that she will be far more alone than a typical child of people who had multiple kids in their 20s to 30s. The last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling niece I prefer my real name to a nickname? My youngest niece, Raven, recently entered 2nd grade and was filling out an identity and names worksheet. It was pretty much about family members. You talk to 3 family/friends about their identity. Raven asked to call me on Skype and talk about her worksheet. She asked if I had kids, what I did for a job, etc. At the very end, she said, I already knew this question. I've filled it out when we first started. I asked her what the question was. She said, your name is Whirly. I tell everyone my aunt has a cool name. I told her, nicely, that my name is actually Winona and she is the only one who calls me Whirly, minus my sister. And my sister only calls me Whirly when talking about me to Raven. Raven got confused, and I said, when you were little, you could not pronounce Winona and said Whirly instead. Your mom thought it was so cute. Raven asked if everyone calls me Whirly, because it was so cute. I told her honestly, everyone calls me Winona, including the other nephews, because I don't use a nickname outside of Winnie. Everyone I know calls me Winona, just like everyone calls you Raven. My niece finished her homework, talked about her school day, and we said goodbye. The next day, my sister called me in a fit of rage, saying I ruined her daughter's whole night because she called me Aunt Winona instead of Whirly. My sister then explained that when Raven called Uncle Top, my brother Christopher, she asked him, "Do you like being called Uncle Top?" And when he said, "Actually, if you want to know, I go by Chris." So now Raven is upset the other adults have told her they dislike the nicknames. And while I thought it was cute when she was little, I kind of hated the nickname. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. All you did was tell her your real name. So did her uncle. Raven had to learn eventually. I imagine it comes down to her sister choosing not to use her siblings' actual names because she thought her daughter's nicknames were so cute and kept it going long after. She's basically taught her wrong for her own entertainment. Not an a-hole. Your sister seems to be the problem, not Raven. The kid probably just registered the name change and asked the next one, and that is it. I doubt the kid had a meltdown or anything about the name. You can even tell Raven that Winona is a pretty cool name too. It's not that common, and there are famous people that share your name. I love my name. I love being Aunt Winona. Not a a-hole. I understand children have a hard time pronouncing things, but as they get older, it's okay to set boundaries with preferred names and pronouns, etc. I don't think you did anything wrong. You just gave her your preference and prepared her for the real world. I felt like that was part of the reason her homework existed. I know a lot of kids don't know their parents' real names outside of mom and dad. I am not a huge fan of nicknames. I had issues when I was little with people calling me sweetie or honey. I would always tell them it's Winona. And that's the end of this video, folks. As always, leave a comment and hit like and subscribe. And if you want more of this content, turn your notification on to get updated on the latest videos. And I'll catch you in the next one. Stay safe.